No, leave her there.
Wife in front.
She's here representing Speaker Ryan. And then Senator McCallum is a U.S. Senator. That's what represents Alaska. She's also the chair of the research committee that has oversight. She's also a member of the
And she's representing.
Amata Radowagan.
Okay.
She represents Ryan because she's from the House. And Murkowski. She's crossed out, but she's here.
Murkowski is here.
Yeah, she's the senator of Alaska.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I think that's it. Okay. Okay. I'm going to ask everyone to please take your seats. We're getting ready to begin. Please take your seats. Good to see you again.
So good to see you again. And getting younger and younger.
No. Birthday was yesterday. No. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lois Hasselhaptes, and I'm going to guide you through today's ceremonies as I have in past years. It is such a joy to see a packed house as we in the Virgin Islands commemorate 100 years under American rule. We consider this survival of our people to the greatest extent for many of the years that we have survived. And so this afternoon, I give greetings As we start this program, afternoon to members of the clergy, Reverend Jeffrey Neville, Pastor Winnell Curtin Roberts, our Honorable Governor Kenneth E. Mapp, the Honorable Lars and Mrs. Rasmussen, Prime Minister, the Honorable Ryan Zinke, Mr. Secretary, U.S. Department of the Interior, the Honorable Nicola Pula, Acting Assistant Secretary, Honorable Regelson, Honorable Ambassador, Consul General of Denmark in New York, our Honorable Lieutenant Governor Osbert Potter, Honorable President of our legislature, Myron D. Jackson, President of our 32nd Legislature of the Virgin Islands, and members of the 32nd Legislature, our Honorable Lady from American Samoa, Congresswoman Amata, representing Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, our own delegate to Congress, the Honorable Stacy Plaskett, our Honorable Charles Turnbull, Honorable Reese Hodge, Chief of the Judicial Supreme Court of the Virgin Islands, and members of the judiciary, Brigadier General Deborah Howell of the Virgin Islands National Guard, Consul General Soren Black, Senior White House Advisor Doug Dumick, Policy Director Basil Otley, Mr. Stan Austin, Southeast Regional Director, National Park Service, members of the Governor's Cabinet, and heads of auxiliary agencies, Dr. David Hall of the University of the Virgin Islands, fellow members of our Virgin Islands Transfer Centennial Commission, friends and family, students, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to this 100th anniversary of the Transfer Day programs, the Virgin Islands Transfer Centennial Day program. At this time, thank you. At this time, we will have an invocation from Reverend Pastor Jeffrey Neville from the St. Thomas Reformed Church. Please stand.
Good afternoon. 100 years ago, the Reverend A.H. Leslie stood in the Dutch Reformed Church just down the road and offered a prayer to the faithful gathered there on a few days prior to the transfer of these islands. Today, 100 years later, I offer this very same prayer. So let us call upon the one who has given us the gift of these islands, the gift of life. Let us pray. O God of immortality, before whom angels bow and archangels veil their faces, enable us to serve thee with reverence and godly fear. Thou who art spirit and requirest truth in the inward parts, help us to worship thee in spirit and in truth. Thou who art righteous, let us not harbor sin in our hearts, or indulge a worldly temper, or seek satisfaction in things that perish. We hasten towards a time when earthly pursuits and possessions will appear vain, when it will be indifferent whether we have been rich or poor, successful or disappointed, admired or despised. But it will be an eternal moment that we have mourned for sin, hungered and thirsted after righteousness, loved the Lord Jesus in sincerity, gloried in his cross. May these objects engross our chief solicitude. Produce in us those principles and dispositions that make thy service perfect freedom. God bless. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Nevo, for the invocation. Please be seated, everyone. At this time, I call forward the Honorable Myron D. Jackson, President of our 32nd Legislature of the Virgin Islands of the United States, to render his remarks. Senator Jackson.
Thank you very much, Mistress of Ceremony, and good afternoon. And it is truly a beautiful day in the Virgin Islands of the United States. Good afternoon, His Excellency Lars Rasmussen, Prime Minister, the Honorable Governor Kenneth E. Mapp, Lieutenant Governor Osborne Potter, Chief Justice Reese Hodge, Governor Charles Turnbull, Secretary of Interior Ryan Zinke, Congresswoman Amata Radwagan, representing the Speaker of the House, also Senator Murkowski of Alaska, member of the U.S. Senate, and also member of the Centennial Congressional Commission, the Honorable Dr. Orlando Smith, Ambassador Anna Riggleson, Delegate to Congress Stacey Plaskett, other members of government, visiting guests, members of the Centennial Commission, other dignitaries, and to the public who stand to witness with us the 100th anniversary of the transfer of our islands from Denmark to the United States of America. I would also like to recognize our consuls, Annetta Klein, German consul, as well as Mr. Søren Black, our Danish consul. It is an honor on behalf of the 32nd Legislature of the Virgin Islands, and with us this afternoon are Senator Blyden, Senator Dwayne DeGraff, Senator Jean Ford, and Senator Brian Smith. We are pleased to welcome you on the grounds of this historic Capitol grounds, known to us as the Virgin Islands Legislature, our seat of government, one of our national historic landmarks that house the memories of centuries of our past. The first legislature convened in 1955, and Walter I.M. Hodge became the first Senate president. In July of that year, demonstrators led to Government House by then Senator Earl B. Artley, and they organized Virgin Islanders in protest of Governor Alexander using the revised Organic Act to curtail the political powers of the people of the territory. We have traveled many paths to be here today. A retrospect of why we are on these grounds today began with a group of Copenhagen merchants who formed the Danish West Indian Company to pursue capitalistic opportunities in the West Indies. An expedition force was sent out, and on their arrival in St. Thomas in 1666, they found about 50 settlers of different nationalities on the island of St. Thomas. Attempts to establish a colony on St. Thomas was unsuccessful, and those that survived returned home. By 1671, a new West Indian Company was chartered, and a second group of Danish colonists in 1672 successfully established a settlement. By 1680, Fort Christian was completed, that's directly behind us, and a tongue was established, known then as Tapus. Not too far from this landmark in the open square where our ancestors arrived and where we were inspected and sold as part of this horrific enterprise, that open square today is known as the Emancipation Garden, where the 1848 proclamation freeing all enslaved Africans in the Danish West Indies was declared. The historic Fort Christian, directly across the street, was linked to Denmark's interest in West Africa's Gold Coast and was connected with other established Danish and European forts engaged in the transatlantic slave trade. It was from these forts that our African ancestors were forcibly brought to these islands to be the labor force for the production and sale of tobacco, indigo, cotton, sugar, rum, for European and American markets. Their labor built the Americas. The Capitol building served as the military barracks. The grounds where 100 years ago our ancestors witnessed the formal ceremony that would forever change the course of our future from various vantage points across the town. They would witness the formal ceremony making the sale of the territory from Denmark to the United States for $25 million in gold. Reports from March 31st, 1917 show that the day started out dull and drizzly. The Dannenberg was hoisted here at the battery in the morning for the last time, but there was no breeze to open it out. By afternoon, the weather cleared and a grand program unfolded with full naval, military, and civil society represented along with the police corps and the fire brigade. As 4 p.m. arrived, thousands of our people packed themselves along the outskirts of the barracks yard and around the fort. Others went to lookout points in the hills and in boats in the harbor. My grandmother and her mother were among countless Virgin Islanders who in 1917 stood witness to this transformation. Oral history tells us that our ancestors said, "We know what we had, but we don't know what we're going to get." Today, her granddaughter, my mother, and her great-grandchildren are here to honor them. As that transfer day in 1917 left our ancestors with mixed emotions, similarly, this day, a century later, has pricked the consciousness of our territory. While there are those of us who see the Centennial as a time to reflect and focus on the significant progress and achievements we have made over the course of time, there are others who question it as, is it really in the best interest of a modern society to commemorate a colonial past? This observation provides an opportunity for us to have an open discourse of this past and our aspirations for the future. The United Nations commemorated the International Day of Remembrance of Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade as part of the International Decade of Peoples of African Descent, which was observed globally. Passage of Resolution number 1838, Bill number 310079, last term, connects the Virgin Islands to this worldwide initiative in developing a comprehensive program that focuses on education and awareness of the contributions of people of African descent throughout the Caribbean region. On Sunday, March 25th, 2017, the Moravian Church of Denmark made an apology to the people of the Virgin Islands for Denmark's role in the transatlantic slave trade as well as the institution of slavery. During the Centennial program at the Memorial Moravian Church that Sunday, the apology was read to the congregation. This story began with an enslaved African from the Danish West Indies by the name of Anthony Ulrich, who in 1731 made an appeal to the Moravian Church to address the human rights violations of his enslaved brothers and sisters in the island. The Church's apology serves as a moral compass towards healing and reconciliation on both sides of the Atlantic, which is long overdue. His efforts were not in vain. As we observe this centennial like our ancestors, we make history on this very same ground. Much change has come, and many of the same dynamics they encountered, we still face today. Issues of identity, citizenship and status, voters' rights, full inclusion and participation in the affairs of our nation, sustainable development, education, health, infrastructure, and our financial sustainability in a global economy are challenges still to be resolved. In this regard, we continue to work with our Danish and American partners in collaborative efforts and initiatives. Our lasting Centennial Heritage Legacy Project of the Centennial Commission is to create a school of architecture in the town of Christiansted, St. Croix, and a school of arts and culture in Charlotte-Amalie, St. Thomas. This is for the development and the cultivation of our youth. I am confident that we will take the best of our inheritance and forge forward with the courage, determination, and the blessings of our ancestors. Let us hold fast to the commitment and the principles needed to advance our motto, united in pride and hope, with God's help. God bless the people of the Virgin Islands of the United States.
Thank you, Senator Jackson, for those great remarks. And we look forward to all of those components that he has mentioned. And we as a people have to come together and attend the sessions that he calls. At this time, I'm going to bring forward the Honorable Reese S. Hodge, Chief Justice. From the Supreme Court. I see that they have many people under there, but it is the Chief Justice that is next.
Good afternoon. Protocol having been established so perfectly by the Mistress of Ceremonies and by our Senate President, I will not even begin to repeat. But I welcome and greet all of the dignitaries, the Prime Minister of Denmark, the Prime Minister of the Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands, our Secretary of Interior, and all Senator Murkowski and all federal officials of the executive and legislative branch, all government officials, Governor Mapp, Lieutenant Governor Potter, cabinet members, and without again repeating, welcome to all, and good afternoon to the members of the public. On behalf of the officers and the employees of the judicial branch of the Virgin Islands, it is my honor to appear and participate in this historic transfer centennial ceremony. Milestone anniversaries are the perfect time to commemorate the past, celebrate the present, and contemplate the future. Today is no exception. On this historic day, we commemorate the former Danish West Indies and remember the profound and everlasting influence that 250 years under the Danish flag has had on our society. And we proudly celebrate our union with the United States and embrace all that America represents, including the ideals of equality, justice, and opportunity for all. Yet, we also contemplate our status as a territory and reflect on what it means to be American in a jurisdiction where the United States Constitution does not automatically follow the flag. As we commemorate, celebrate, and contemplate on this transfer centennial, we must keep in mind that democracies are like novels. The first chapter may grab your attention, but the most satisfying parts come later. The people of the Virgin Islands have achieved much in the years since March 31st, 1917. After the transfer, the municipalities of St. Croix and St. Thomas developed their own municipal codes based on American law rather than Danish law. And in 1957, this became the Virgin Islands Code, the formal written code of laws that govern our territory up to this day. Virgin Islands also fought for the right to elect their own governor, lieutenant governor, as well as to have a voice in the U.S. House of Representatives, which occurred with the first election in 1970. Most recently, the Virgin Islands judicial branch has gradually evolved into an independent and co-equal branch of Virgin Islands government. With the establishment of the modern Superior Court of the Virgin Islands in 1977 and the ascent of the Supreme Court of the Virgin Islands in 2007 and the divestiture of federal oversights of the local judiciary in 2012. As we take this day to commemorate, celebrate, and contemplate, let us remember that the story of the Virgin Islands and its people has not ended, but has only just begun. May our memories of all that we have achieved over the last century motivate us to continue on our journey towards full self-determination as we turn the page to the next chapter in the history of the Virgin Islands and its people. May God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Hodge. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I bring forward the chairperson of our Transfer Centennial Commission, who has worked tirelessly with the commission to bring this forward today. It's been several years since we were enacted by our governor, and we've had many, many sessions, meetings, research, symposiums, and we are pleased to have our chairperson, Pamela C. Richards, give remarks today. Mrs. Richards.
Good afternoon. Wasn't that a lovely parade? It doesn't sound like you thought so. Wasn't that a lovely parade? Protocol having been established, let me say a pleasant good afternoon to all. I would like to mention, though, that our mistress of ceremony had a birthday yesterday. She doesn't look a day older, nor does she act older. This is Dr. Lois Hasselhaptis. Please join me in wishing her a happy birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, today is an important milestone in Virgin Islands history. It is the last day of Virgin Islands and Women's History Month. Today is the last day of March. It is the anniversary of the transfer of the islands of the Danish West Indies to the United States of America. On behalf of the members of the Virgin Islands Transfer Centennial Commission, who will be coming forward as soon as I finish so that you can see who these individuals are who have been working on your behalf, I bid you a very warm welcome. Our volunteer commission members have worked tirelessly for 2.5 years to develop activities for which the community can be as proud as ever. We have paid equal attention to ensuring that we were sensitive to all points of view concerning how we would observe this milestone. I believe that we've been successful in thoughtfully developing programs which allow for remembrance, reflection, reciprocation, and ultimately reconciliation. Allow me to say a heartfelt thank you to our members and staff for their dedication and commitment to stay the course to complete the task. A warm appreciation to the Government of the Virgin Islands, the Department of the Interior, and the Kingdom of Denmark for their support, both financial and service assistance. I would like to be able to tell you that these last 100 years were richly fulfilling and immensely satisfying to the people of the Virgin Islands, just as I would like to state that the 100 years before that were the ones in which the well-being of the people of the islands was given a high priority. But alas, neither statement would be accurate. I can, however, say that our people have a much-needed catharsis, have begun a much-needed catharsis, and notably, our relations with the United States of America and the Kingdom of Denmark are both positively impacted by these centennial activities. The mere presence of the Prime Minister and the Secretary of Interior demonstrate that this event has afforded us a direct line of communication to those of influence. Has enough been done since 1917 for our people? Clearly not. Is anything owed to the people of the Virgin Islands? Yes. As Americans, we have earned and we are owed through the blood of our loved ones, some of whom have paid the ultimate sacrifice for the right to vote for our chief executive, the President of the United States. 100 years should not have passed without our residents being extended our full rights as American citizens to ensure that with each man there is one vote on all matters that impact us. It is what civilized and decent people do. We Virgin Islanders are a courageous, ambitious, hardworking, resourceful, and resilient people. Through these 100 years, we were not spent in inaction. They were marked by the personal growth of our people through equal measures of persistence and stubbornness and a determination to make the quality of life for our families better than that which we had ourselves. Those years for us have been transformative. We have birthed leaders who have been indefatigable in their determination to help our people excel, to do better, to be the best. We stand on the shoulders of the fearless notables such as Hubert Harrison, Edward Wilmot Blyden, Queens Mary, Agnes, Matilda, and Keziah. We note and appreciate the worldwide impact of David Hamilton Jackson, General Butto, Horace Clark, Earl B. Otley, and Tim Duncan. Persons such as Camille Pizarro, Peter Jackson, Emile Griffith, Julian, John, and Julius Jackson. Persons such as Camille Pizarro, Peter Jackson, Emile Griffith, those of musical artistry, Benny Benjamin, Alton Adams, John Lucien, Midnight Band, Milo, Stanley, and Pressure Buspipe. Ambassador Terence Todman, Roy Innes, Alexander A. Farrelly, Jane E. Tuitt, Ruth E. Thomas, Guy Benjamin, Arthur A. Richards, and Myra Keating. It is through the commitment of Virgin Islanders such as these that we have lived these 100 years with grace and veneration. We could easily list 100 and still have many more that have laid the foundation for us to make the ensuing 100 years better for those who come after us. It is, after all, what civilized and decent people do. Do, my people, do. I thank you. I'm going to ask the members of the Centennial Commission to come forward so that I can identify you, please. Just like it is when we have in a meeting. Roll call.
Present.
Member Shelley Moorhead.
Present.
Member Myron Jackson.
I hear.
Member Lois Hasselhaptis. Member Sean Michael Malone. Member Colette Conroy Monroe. Member Kane Clement McGrath. Any others? I'd like to. My former boss, I can't do that. The Honorable Governor Charles Wesley Turnbull. I know. I would like to introduce somebody who, without him, I would not be here today because y'all ain't easy. My Vice Chair. Member Marlene Peterson Basholti. Wait a minute. Who? Beverly? Beverly's not a member of the commission. Let me introduce to you my vice chair, who I have relied on terribly. Thank you so much. Javil is out of St. Croix. He's Javil Larson, our vice chair of the commission.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our staff, starting with our executive director, Mr. Kevin Jackson. Our assistant director, Mr. James O'Brien Jr. And our administrative assistant, Ms. Regina Watson Webster. These are the people who have worked on behalf of the Virgin Islands for the love of the islands. I thank them for their service, and I thank you, and we'll see you all the way through December 31st. Enjoy the day.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Pamela Richards, our director of our chairperson of our Centennial Commission. It's time, we're getting very, very close to the hour of 4 o'clock, and I was told by Senator Jackson that when that occurs, that we're getting ready to move forward in position so that we can lower the Dannebrog and raise our the flag of the US of A. So, and the Virgin Islands flag as well. So we're getting ready right now for our flag ceremony, ladies and gentlemen. And you may want to stand so that you do not miss it. And I'm going to ask those who proceed forward, and it will begin with the members of the, from the days. Yes. Brigadier General, thank you. Brigadier General Howell. While I'm waiting, I did want to recognize the Honorable Annette Klein, Consul General of the Federal Republic of Germany. She is here. Yes? Thank you. So this is JROTC, moving forward with our dignitaries. And we also have the cadets of the Denmark training ship and the retired Denmark police.
primarily of the Stars and Stripes. beaches bright with coral sand, and trade winds bless our native land. Oh, hail our Virgin Islands, faith in waters blue. We give our loyalty full to thee and pledge allegiance forever true. God bless our Virgin Islands, humbly now we pray, where all mankind can join today in friendly warmth of work and play. God bless our Virgin Islands, dreaming of the shore, beneath the sunny sky, hilltops high, for that to welcome our one and all.
How beautiful. Charlotte Amalie High School and Ivana Eudora-Ken High School choirs, directed by Miss Monet Davis. Only what? Only Eudora-Ken. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're now going to have the dramatization. Right at 4 o'clock, we were to have the dramatization following the flag ceremony. So we're going to do that. United in Pride and Hope. Our Caribbean Dance Company and Combined Ensemble, directed by Montgomery Thompson. I know him as Monty. Including the Yellow Muller Bambula dancers and drummers, the Marceline Bambula Dance Company, our Caribbean ritual dancers, Echo People, poet Yahweh David, and dancer Marie Paul. Our soloists are going to be Mrs. Lorna Freeman and composer Mr. Gilchrist Sproul. Let's welcome everyone forward for our dramatization. And please wait until our governor gets on stage with our flag. Wonderful. Okay, we're ready for our dramatization this afternoon. United in Pride and Hope. That has been our theme for this centennial.
Ons Vader, naar die hemel. Uw naam wordt geheiligd. Uw koninkrijk komt. O, dat uw wil zal geschieden op de aarde zoals naar de hemel. Geef ons vandaag ons dagbrood. En vergeef ons onze schulden, zoals ons vergeef ons schuldenaars. En leid ons niet naar verzoeking, maar verlos ons van die kwaaie, want van jou ben de koninkrijk en die kracht en die heerlijkheid naar eeuwigheid. Amen. my people go. Let my people go. Let my people go.
Over these three islands, tell me. Such a big deal over these three islands, tell me. Money, tight and poverty rising, tell me. The Monroe Doctrine of Kingdom Britain, tell me. Denmark broken, America pushing, tell me. Such a big deal over these three islands, tell me. Broken and prices high, tell me.
Who could have known that the inhabitants of this new American territory, the U.S. Virgin Islands, would discover that their expectations for better living conditions would be delayed? This was a racially integrated society under Danish rule. However, as America took charge of these islands, the new naval administration found it impossible to accept a society that did not maintain blacks in a place of submission like on the U.S. mainland. A talented black Virgin Islander named Alton Adams rose to the challenge to help keep this community united as its pride and hope were under assault. Alton was a fine musician who became the first black band leader of the U.S. Navy shortly after the annexation of the United States Virgin Islands. In the year 1922, the fourth governor under naval administration, Summer Kittel, said, "Virgin Islanders, a quiet and humble people, should not be allowed to rule themselves for 100 years, and when should be done under white rule." A bold statement like this could not dampen the spirits of the descendants of St. Croix Three Queens, nor the descendants of Canta Bolombo and Akwashi, who ruled St. John for 6 months in 1733. No, no, the Virgin Islands would remain united in pride and in hope. A black band leader in the United States Navy, this brilliant young man became the liaison through which a sense of peace was kept between the racially insensitive naval administration and the native people. But to whom did the natives of newly acquired Virgin Islands belong? They were no longer Danish subjects, and the U.S. did not immediately grant citizenship. Through the fierce lobbying of great men like D. Hamilton Jackson, Rothschild Francis, and others on the U.S. mainland who took on our cause, it took 10 years, but finally, in 1927, American citizenship was granted to all Virgin Islanders. This citizenship, though creating hope, also came with conditions. A Supreme Court ruling in 1901 declared citizens in the territory to be of alien races, unable to understand Anglo-Saxon laws, so all provisions of the American Constitution did not have to apply, most notably the right to vote for U.S. President. This outrageous ruling added to the disgrace that only 6% of the local population could vote because of their economic status, and women were denied the right to vote, period. One step forward, yet a step backward. Hope was once again under assault. However, 3 school teachers, Edith Williams, Anna Vessup, and Eulalie Stevens, took their cause to the district court and won the right to vote in December of 1935. Greater still, in 1936, the property and income requirements for voting rights were abolished under the first Organic Act, approved by President Roosevelt. The Organic Act also changed the naval administration to civil government. During the 1940s, young Virgin Islanders enlisted in the U.S. Armed Forces, and their great desire to serve the country brought out the best in them. Henry Rolston and Herbert Hayward were 2 of the famed Tuskegee Airmen, whose legacies were celebrated in the film Red Tails. Many Virgin Islanders experienced racism during their service in the armed forces and were appalled to return home and find vestiges of the same prejudice here. World War II brought another wave of American soldiers from the South, whose preference for a segregated society influenced many local hoteliers and club owners to cater only to whites. Governor Charles Howard approved a civil rights ordinance in 1945, punishing those who practiced discrimination. In 1950, our first native governor, Morris de Castro, of Jewish heritage, strengthened this civil rights ordinance in preparation for the tourism boom that would put the beauty of our islands on display to the world. He also united the finances of all 3 islands so that the wealth of the territory would provide for all Virgin Islands.
united. Forward march. Forward march. Forward march. The Virgin Islands proud and united. Forward march. Forward march. Forward march. We getting close, everyone excited. Forward march. Forward march. Forward march. We getting close, everyone excited. Forward march.
In 1954, the revised Organic Act of the Virgin Islands was signed into law by President Eisenhower. This act unified, improved, and simplified the structure of the Virgin Islands government. Instead of having 2 municipal councils governing the 2 districts, with pride, the legislature of the Virgin Islands was created. As our society has always been a diverse one, any previous use of language, property, income, race, sex, or color as a criteria to vote was totally abolished.
Forward march. Forward march. The Virgin Islands proud and united. Forward march. Forward march. Forward march. We getting close, everyone excited. Forward march. Forward march. Forward march. Can't look back when the goal's been sighted. Forward march. Forward march. Forward march. You can't look back when the goal's been sighted. Forward march. Forward march. Forward march. The flame for progress has been ignited. Forward march. Forward march. Forward march. The flame for progress has been ignited. Forward march.
The 1950s and 60s also brought on an era of great pride to the Virgin Islands, as the greater diaspora of Virgin Islanders scattered throughout the world were accomplishing great things. Most notable are the triumphs of Virgin Islanders in the arts and sports. Sonny Rollins, a saxophone player of Virgin Islands parentage, established himself as a mainstay in the field of jazz with the sound of his tenor saxophone. He immortalized our folk song, Fire Down There, under a new title of St. Thomas. Gris, a soprano of VI parentage, was selected by Leonard Bernstein to perform in the original cast of West Side Story, as well as go on to have an international career in the field of opera. Joe Christopher and Valmy Thomas were the first Virgin Islanders to play in Major League Baseball. Emil Griffith became a world champion boxer in 3 classes. These accomplishments put the Virgin Islands on the map and paved the way for other international artists like Arthur Woodley, John Lucien, Ron Blake, Dion Parson, Reuben Rogers, as well as top athletes like Julian Jackson, Tim Duncan, Roger Bell, and others. In the field of diplomatic service, the Virgin Islands' own Terence Todman was starting out on a distinguished and exemplary path that inspired many blacks across the United States to join the diplomatic service. Ambassador Todman was awarded the title of Career Ambassador to the U.S. State Department. Certainly, with accomplishments like these, Virgin Islanders both home and abroad have grown more united in pride and in hope. St. John, the smallest of the Virgin Islands, had its challenges through the years. Being a more remote yet tight-knit community of residents, St. John benefited from the committed public service of Julius E. Sprouse Sr., who served from the very first municipal council in 1937 to the first legislature, ending his career in 1956. He is credited with lobbying to get electrical power running on St. John, as well as the building of the Julius E. Sprouse School in the late 1950s. We also make mention of Guy Benjamin, the first St. Johnian to complete a high school education. He went on to complete his degree at New York University and returned to the territory to become superintendent of schools in the St. Thomas, St. John district. All can agree that an educated populace is a productive one. Though elementary and intermediate education had been available in the Danish West Indies to people of all classes, higher education was much harder to achieve. Even under American rule, higher education was available only to a few privileged Virgin Islanders. In the year 1962, under the administration of Governor Ralph M. Pywanski, the College of the Virgin Islands was founded. This major achievement in the field of academia infused our people with pride and fulfilled the hopes of so many committed educators of the Virgin Islands who longed for the day when all of their pupils would have access to a college education. From 1970 forward, the Virgin Islands have enjoyed a steady stream of successes in the field of self-governance and representation on the United States mainland. Governor Kittle's racist pronouncement from 1922 over our hopes of governing ourselves was overturned in 1970 when Governor Melvin H. Evans, a native of St. Croix, was elected. Can you imagine our pride? In addition, in 1973, we gained our first delegate to Congress, Ron DeLugo. Following in the footsteps of several great women in government, like the Senators Ruby Rouse, Lorraine Berry, and Ruby Simmons, Delegate Donna Christensen was elected in 1997. Our present delegate is also a woman. We recognize the Honorable Delegate Stacy Plaskett, who was elected in 2015. And so, here we are, Virgin Islands, a century united in pride and in hope. But one has to wonder, what's next? This century has come to an end, and a new one begins. There is yet much to accomplish, and with our first century successfully completed, we have nothing to fear except that we forget how marvelously the Almighty has led us in the past. Soon, we will have a female governor. And we will believe that, as impossible as it may seem to some, the right to vote for president can be won for all U.S. territories. Oh noble, oh valiant and determined people of the Virgin Islands, these accomplishments can be realized only as we remain united in pride and united in hope.
As
Let's hear it. United in pride and hope. A dramatization directed by Monty Thompson, assisted by Mr. Sproul, and our person at the mic, Willard John. Thank you all so much. And our drummers, our echo drummers, wonderful work. All the dancers, well presented components of Virgin Islands arts and culture. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Beautiful children of the Virgin Islands. Take a bow. Beautiful children of the Virgin Islands. Thank you. Yes, those who sang, and Mr. Sproul, Lorna Freeman, thank you. Woo! Sherwin Williams, one of our students at the university. Thank you. Wonderful. Great job. Thank you. At this time, I call forward Honorable Charles Wesley Turnbull, former governor of the Virgin Islands of the United States, and also a member, precious member of the Transfer Centennial Commission. He's going to recognize our elders and centenarians, and that you do have the publication in the booklet. Beautifully done. We were wondering every meeting why he's writing so much, but we see the fruits of his labor. Governor Turnbull, please come forward.
What a wonderful event to follow the activities of our young people. Let's give them another round of applause. A pleasant, sunny good afternoon to one and all. Friends, neighbors, visitors, Virgin Islanders, here, near, and far. We are gathered here on this historic day, on these hallowed grounds, to praise Almighty God and to commemorate the peaceful transfer of our lovely homeland, the Virgin Islands, from the Kingdom of Denmark to the United States of America 100 years ago. We are also here on this, the last day of Virgin Islands History Month, to honor our elders and ancestors on whose shoulders we proudly stand. We honor our elders who are still with us. Some are even present at this very ceremony this afternoon. They are our septuagenarians, octogenarians, nonagenarians, and our centenarians. Will everyone who's 70, 80, 90, and 100 years or more raise their hands? We praise you. They are our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, They are aunts and uncles, or godparents, or teachers, or doctors, or nurses, or pastors, and mentors of all sorts. Let us remember and honor our ancestors who have gone before and whose loving faces we no longer see. The list is long, their achievements great, but time does not permit one to read all their names one by one. But we would be remiss if we did not openly acknowledge a few. You have indeed heard some of their names called by previous speakers already. We honor the brave warriors of St. John, who in 1733 rose up and struck a blow for freedom in the first large-scale slave rebellion in the Caribbean. We honor Butthole Gottlieb and the heroes and heroines of St. Croix, who in 1848 forced Governor Peter von Schulten to free the enslaved in the Danish West Indies. We honor Mary Thomas, better known as Queen Mary, also Queen Agnes and Queen Matilda, for their rebellion for better conditions for the laboring classes on St. Croix, known as the fire burn of 1878. Likewise, we honor Queen Keziah in St. Thomas for her struggle for a better life for the coal workers in St. Thomas in 1892. And you saw some of the coal workers being demonstrated here this very afternoon. That is what they were demonstrating. We remember and honor our militant and steadfast leaders, male and female, who have sacrificed and led the fight for better conditions for the poor and the needy and the underserved. They led in various fields of endeavor. We speak of David Hamilton Jackson, who started the first labor union in the Caribbean and who fought for freedom of press and assembly. We speak of Rothschild Francis, Elizabeth Hendrickson, Caspar Holstein, Hubert Harrison, Edward Wilmot Blyden, Paul Joseph, Canute Bradhurst, Mary Myers, Lucinda Millen, Elena Christian, Albie Otley, Valdemar Hill, Antonio Jarvis, Geraldo Gertie, Rufus Vanterpool. We also honor Geraldo Gertie, as I mentioned before. We honor Ashley Tatton, Edith Williams, Ruby Rouse, Ralph Paiwansky, Cyril E. King, Julius Sproul, Janie Twitt, Ariel Melchior Sr., Eldra Schulterbrandt, D.C. Canegada, Idora Ken, Ingeborg Nesbitt, Lorraine Berry, Alton Adams, Terence Tadman. The list is long. Zafira Jacobs, Eugenie Ford, Elaine Sproul, Gwendolyn Ken, Barnabas Shelter, Paul B. Larson, Ann Abramson, Delta Dosh, Orlando Maroon. Oh, there are many more. These are just a few. And let us not forget the Danes, such as Knut Hansen, who stayed behind to assist our people in many ways on this memorable day of remembrance and commemoration. For a moment, as we glance backward at the race that they have run, our ancestors, we hear their voices shouting louder and even louder. Onward to the brightest of tomorrows, we, their descendants, must go.
Thank you so much, Governor. And I bring attention to the information in your booklet. The governor has 100 notable events in Virgin Islands history. It's in your booklet, and this is what he pulled from for today's ceremony. So you have it to take with you, all of the people mentioned and even more. His research was done in commemoration of this event. Thank you, Governor Turnbull. And now I call forward the Honorable Bo Manderup Jensen, President, United Nations. No? Oh, he's further up. Okay. So we'll go ahead then with the Adelita Cancrine Junior High School and their presentation. And they will have a musical selection.
You're watching the Centennial
And the Bertha
celebration.
C. Bisholta Middle School, combined choirs. Under the direction of Mr. Malvern Gums.
That will give that.
Thank you. The Emily Buchanan Junior High School and Bertha C. Bashulta choirs, under the direction of Malvern Gums and Miss Kamar. Tamar, yes, thank you, Miss Tamar. Wonderful, so beautifully done, and an appropriate song, Oh Freedom. Remember, it's all in your mind, right? In today's day and age, we are free. Thank you. Thank you. Beautifully done this afternoon.
Tonal quality, the modulation.
Our disciplined students of the Adelita Cancrine Junior High School. I see their principal smiling. That's my baby sister. And now I'll call forward the Honorable Dr. Daniel Orlando Smith, the OBE Premier of the British Virgin Islands, to give us remarks. So great to see you again.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to adopt the protocol that was established earlier. So good afternoon to everyone. I'm truly honored to join you this afternoon as we reflect on the 100th anniversary of the United States Virgin Islands. I join you in honoring the dynamic legacy of the brave men and women of past generations of Virgin Islanders who sacrificed, labored, and toiled so that we may celebrate today. The peaceful transfer of the Danish West Indies to the United States of America was indeed a defining moment in history, marking the beginning of a new era in the life of both our territories. Although the transfer brought many new rules and regulations, together we found ways to maintain our mutually beneficial relationship. The history of these islands records that in the post-emancipation period, it was customary for Beaver Islanders to seek employment in other islands. We regularly sought opportunities in the United States Virgin Islands, particularly on the core referred wharfs, which catered to the steamships docking in St. Thomas. We also sought work in the overnight guest houses and homes of well-to-do families. Life in the BVI at that time was based around a thriving, export-driven economy with regular goods of ground provisions, fruits and cattle to the Dutch, French, and other British islands. Beaver Islanders generated a surplus of produce and cattle as they owned large tracts of land. Families were usually large with 10 or 12 children to assist in the labor-intensive process of work in the ground. The territory also had a cadre of expert boat builders and seamen who bravely traversed the waters of the Eastern Caribbean, facilitating the export trade. In this way, migrating to other islands was commonplace, as there was little or no immigration controls. People moved freely between the islands. Due to the thriving port city that Charlotte Amalie had become, it was widely regarded by BVI leaders as a key marketplace for their produce, livestock, charcoal, and straw work, among other things. While some Beaver Islanders who had migrated to the Danish West Indies feared the uncertainty of the transfer and opted to return home before transfer day, many opted to remain and embrace a future under association with the United States of America. On March 31, 1917, a large number of Beaver Islanders who had migrated to the Danish West Indies became United States citizens when the U.S. flag was raised. This occurrence cemented a bond between the people of these two territories. Numerous families were split, with parents, brothers, and sisters permanently residing in each territory. Children of BVI parentage now live in the United States Virgin Islands, return to the BVI during the summer months to spend time with their grandmothers and to become acquainted with their cousins and other family members. BVI Islanders in the United States Virgin Islands took pride in welcoming their family and friends, facilitating their trips to sell and purchase items, such as building materials not available in the BVI. The years immediately following the transfer saw the enactment of the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which banned the consumption, manufacture, importation, sale, or transportation of alcoholic beverages across the United States of America. The period from 1920 to 1933, the Prohibition period, set off a thriving trade for Beaver Islanders in the smuggling of rum into the United States Virgin Islands. Fishermen and boat captains took on jobs to transport the precious cargo. Rum produced in the BVI and other islands was not in short supply and could be sold for a high price in the U.S. islands. Everyone except Ella Gift used charcoal to cover the many bottles of rum stacked in the hulls of their boats. Farmers also profited from this illegal trade as the sudden high demand for charcoal kept them busy. Though the British Virgin Islands were officially part of the Leeward Island Federation, with the stolen coinage as a legal tender, it was due to the deep trading relationship between the United States Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands that there was always a large circulation of Danish money in the BVI. In 1951, when the British West Indies dollar was introduced, there were protests in the BVI. Beaver Islanders protested as it was considered a weak currency. By 1959, the territory refused to join the West Indies Federation and soon after that adopted the United States dollar as legal tender in the territory. Since then, the use of the US dollar has served us well, greatly facilitating the economic success in the twin pillars of global financial services and tourism. The official launch of tourism in the BVI as an economic pillar is another signal event which has been influenced by developments in the United States Virgin Islands. It started when, in 1965, Mr. Rockefeller built Canal Bay in St. John's, and the BVI officials took note and very soon invited him to the BVI to build our flagship property, the Little Dix Bay Hotel in Virgin Gorda. As we pause today to mark this moment in history and on our journey to this moment, we also acknowledge this transfer day as the beginning of a new course in the development of the British Virgin Islands. Though we had to navigate the introduction of many new laws on both sides, such as immigration controls and the agricultural and livestock regulations, we have been successful in preserving tight bonds. Developments in the international sphere have shaped the experience of Virgin Islanders, both BVI and USVI, for centuries and continue to do so today. Once again, we are being blown by the winds of change due to forces beyond our borders. Today, as we did in 1917, developments in the international sphere have ushered in a new era of change in the global construct. Though there are many uncertainties we will face as a people, in this new period, we are certain that our destinies will remain interwoven, inextricably linked together by kinship, friendship, and geography. As we forge ahead, we remember our shared experiences and continue to work together in pursuit of our highest aspirations. I'm certain that our continued spirit of friendship and goodwill, which have served us well in the past, will continue to guide us through this new period of change. Single file and yet together, we have journeyed to this day. We are honored to celebrate with you. On behalf of the government and the people of the British Virgin Islands, we extend our heartfelt congratulations on this centennial anniversary of the United States Virgin Islands. I'd like to say at this point that with me are several persons from the BVI, including the Speaker of the House of Assembly of the BVI, Ms. Ingrid Moses, Honorable Ronnie Skelton, Minister of Health, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Andrew Foy, Mr. Mitch Turnbull, and members at large, and Ms. Alvaro Majuro Keynes, son of men at large. I want to thank them for coming, and again, may God continue to bless you and these Virgin Islands.
Thank you so much, Dr. Daniel Orlando Smith, the OBE Premier of the British Virgin Islands. Thank you for those great remarks. And now I bring forward our own, the Honorable Osbert E. Potter, Lieutenant Governor of the Virgin Islands of the United States. Governor. Lieutenant Governor Potter. You're on the other side.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon, Governor Mapp, and all the special dignitaries that we have here on stage. Good afternoon to all our visitors who have come from far, especially those that have come from Denmark to join us here today. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to our visitors, my good friends who have come from near in the BVI, who have joined us here today. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. This week has really been going extremely well as far as all the events that have been scheduled and planned by the committee, the Centennial Committee. On Sunday, we had the opportunity to be in St. John, and we had a really good time with the St. Johnians as we started the celebration or the commemoration, whichever you prefer. We had the rededication of this very fort right behind us on Wednesday afternoon, and that was extremely well attended, and it was also great. Last night in St. Croix, we had a reception that overflowed Government House, and the enthusiasm was extremely great for the youngsters. It was off the chain. And this morning, we had similar events in St. Croix with the parade and the event. Now, for some individuals, this Centennial event means different things. For some individuals, this Centennial event is an opportunity for different things. For some, it might be the perfect time for them to ask for reparations and pound on reparations and insist on reparations. For some individuals, this is the perfect time to do that. For other individuals, there's no other time better than today to ask for an apology. There will be no other time other than this 100th celebration period to ask for an apology and insist that you get one. That is for some of the individuals in here. And this event means different things to different people. We cannot be here today and believe that all of us are getting the same thing from this event. For other individuals, this is the perfect time, since we have the Secretary of the Interior here, to keep pounding in his head that we still cannot vote for the president, and that we still can't get certain SSI benefits and Medicare benefits that we are entitled to only because we live in the Virgin Islands. For some individuals, this is the perfect time to do that. Today is the perfect time. For other individuals, today is the time that we really get down on our knees and thank God that we are under the American flag, and really pour out our heart to him and let him know how grateful we are that we are under the stars and stripes and been there for 100 years. For some of us, that means a lot because of the safety and the protection and the freedom of speech that we enjoy without even giving it a second thought. So for some, this is the perfect time to do that, because that is what this Centennial means to them. For others, like me, this Centennial was the perfect time to introduce our young people to the facts surrounding our rich history. That's what this Centennial means to me. It means an opportunity for us to get our young people involved in understanding that this is an important event, number one, and sharing with them the facts surrounding this event and let them enjoy their own feelings. Let them determine how they want to feel. But we must, and I must reach out and say thank you to, I'm sure, over 1,000 school children that took part in this event today in one form or the other. And to me, that is what this event means. This Centennial event means that we can open up to our children and share with them what happened, why, where, how, who was involved, and get them to understand and feel it. Because in a few years from now, if the things that continue to bother some of us here today continue in the same light, these are the individuals that will be taking up the fight. These are the individuals that will be taking up the mantle. These are the individuals that will be attempting to get us to the point where we all want to get. So I am saying I am so happy and was so touched to see so many of our young people, whether they marched in the parade, whether they came and participated here, whether they blew the conch shell, whether they came and they danced in the bambula dancers, whether they sang in the choirs with Adelita Conquering School or Eudora Ken. These are the individuals that I feel have the most significance for this event, the young people of our Virgin Islands. And it's up to us, and it's up to the teachers, and it's up to our education system to make sure that following today, this is not just a one-shot deal where we share this information with them, but following today, it becomes a mantle in every one of our schools, in every one of our elementary schools, so that they can understand from an early age and form their opinions and form their conclusions. I thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Potter, for putting it in perspective of exactly why it was so important for our children to be here today. And so I call forward another group of young people, the Gladys Abraham Elementary School, under the direction of National Guard member Lurleen Gerard. So beautiful in their uniform, aren't they? Yeah, representing their school today.
these youngsters, you can see from what age they are, probably around 5, 4.
Gladys Abraham Elementary School choir under the direction of Miss Lurleen Gerard. I'm proud to be an American, so I stand up. Oh, how beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Well done.
Comes to the singing groups.
Yes.
Very, very, very.
The delivery, the volume, and the full body.
Thank you, the Gladys Abraham Elementary School Choir. Thank you. Beautifully rendered. I'm proud to be an American. And now I call forward for remarks our Honorable Congresswoman Stacey E. Plaskett, a member of the 115th House of Representatives and the Congressional Centennial Committee. Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to Governor Kenneth Mapp, Lieutenant Governor Osbert Potter, of course to Secretary Zinke, Senator Murkowski, my colleague, Congresswoman Radewagen, to all of the dignitaries who are on the stage, in the audience, good afternoon to you all, Senate President Myron Jackson, to all of the visitors who are visiting with us today, and to my fellow Virgin Islanders, good afternoon to you on this
Centennial Day, March 31st, 2017. Today marks 100 years that the Virgin Islands of St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have been part of the United States. Purchased in the most costly per acre sale in U.S. land purchase, the islands became the most easterly point of the United States of America and served to protect the Caribbean Basin, the Panama Canal, and to act as a naval base in possible submarine warfare against Germany during World War I. The plebiscite for purchase was facilitated in Denmark at the time of the sale, and no vote was taken by the Virgin Islanders then living under the title of the Danish West Indies. If there had been a vote by the people of the islands under the then Danish serf system, merely 700 people would have met the qualifications to vote, having unblemished character and substantial income. The people of the Virgin Islands during the transfer ceremonies on March 31st, 1917, were in effect a marooned people, citizens of no country for 10 years after that date. The sales document make almost no provisions for the people of the territory, with absolutely none of the remarkable 25 million in gold bullion given to the islands, but shipped along with much of the wealth and records to Copenhagen. Congress was tasked with the duty of sorting out the people that remain, forgotten at the transfer by the island's owners, and unfortunately would appear substantially forgotten after the sale by the new owners. Until the U.S. began ownership of territories which have, in effect, majority-minority populations, disenfranchisement in territories have been viewed as a temporary condition. From the 1787 Northwest Ordinance until the time of the acquisition of Puerto Rico, lands were deemed territories with the expectation that they would eventually become fully part of the Union as a state. The disenfranchisement and unequal treatment of the people of the Virgin Islands is to this day de jure law. The insular cases at the turn of the 20th century, created by the Plessy v. Ferguson Court, established a doctrine of separate but unequal status for the overseas territories, which have been upheld by the courts to this day, have been advocated by the executive branch of the United States, most recently by the Obama administration Justice Department brief, and executed each session by Congress, which rejects the equal treatment requests of the territory's representatives therein. Many of the groups in this country which advocate for voting rights and civil justice, fighting to sustain rights for domestic special interest groups, and advocating for international human rights, brush aside the injustices of people living in the territories, unwilling to recognize the injustice to fellow Americans. And I say fellow Americans because Virgin Islanders are, in fact, citizens of the United States and have taken on the full responsibility of the American experience, even before becoming part of the United States. We are revolutionary idealists. Many, of course, speak of Alexander Hamilton, who learned his system of banking and accounting in the merchant's house on the island of St. Croix. Our island's planter, Abraham Marco, who was a financier of the American Revolution and a designer of the 13 stripes in the present American flag. Denmark Vesey, a free black who willingly gave his life to organize the Charleston Slave Rebellion in South Carolina, and our own Judah Benjamin, a U.S. Senator and a Secretary of State of the rebellious Confederacy in the United States. The islands have given great creators to this country before becoming a part of it, through the island's Williams Leidesdorff, an early pioneer and founder of present San Francisco, California, Edward and Wilmot Blyden, the father of Pan-Africanism, Camille Pissarro, one of the organizers, instigators, and thoughts behind the great Impressionist movement. We have within ourselves these people. After becoming part of the United States, Virgin Islanders came to Washington. This is how fully we wanted to take on the responsibility and petition Congress to be a part of the draft, willingly requesting to give our sons to defend this country while this country would not defend us. And so we have given American generals, diplomats, statesmen, and women perform the ultimate sacrifice in conflicts 3 times the national average, fighting for a commander-in-chief whom we have not elected. Individuals living in the Virgin Islands do not receive the same portion of support in federal dollars as states for schools, roads, health care. Our congressional representative is elected through the same process as any other districts, participates fully in committee work, legislation, but has no vote on the floor on issues related to this country or even to their constituents. Often completely left out of legislation, as we were effectively left out of the treaty in 1917. It is because of this and this kind of treatment that the United Nations, to this day, in their own resolutions, have said that the Virgin Islands of the United States is one of the last colonies in the world. And it is this treatment which have led many Virgin Islanders, many young Virgin Islanders, to have mixed feelings about this centennial commemoration. When and what document will give us full inclusion as U.S. citizens, no matter where we reside? When will the benefits of citizenship extend, as we willingly have taken on the responsibility of that citizenship? We must all do our part today and every day to answer that question. It's for that reason that this last Congress, I offered up as a bill which was passed by Congress and created into law, signed into law by President Barack Obama, the Congressional Centennial Commission, which is comprised of members of Congress, our governor, members of the Interior, and others to look at the accomplishments, the achievements of Virgin Islanders, and for us in Congress to begin a discussion on the status and the feelings, the place of the Virgin Islands of the United States. And it is why last week I offered House Joint Resolution 91, a request for a constitutional amendment for Virgin Islanders and others living in overseas territory to be given the right to vote. Because who better than Virgin Islanders to exemplify the land of the free? Virgin Islanders, who in its first encounter with the New World in 1493 on the island of Ai, which is now called St. Croix, gave Columbus his first armed resistance. Who better than Virgin Islanders to exemplify the land of the free, who in the 1700s on the island of St. John held down slavery for 6 months until their owners had to collaborate with other European nations to come and bring that rebellion to an end. Who better than Virgin Islanders to exemplify the land of the free when in 1848 we became one of only 2 islands in the Western Hemisphere, one of only 2 places to receive their freedom through violent overthrow. We are, in fact, the home of the brave. Who is braver and stronger, more resilient, more courageous than a Virgin Islander? It is our ability to excel and achieve, even in the most harrowing of circumstances, which have created a people able to be from so small an area, but to have contributed so substantially to any place we are a member of. It is we that have the answers to all of our solutions. All of our problems, we can find the solutions because we have done it in the first 100 years, we did it in the 250 years before that, and by God, we can do it again. We have it within ourselves. It is that spirit of revolution, resilience, and innovation which we have shared with this country, which we must now be brought within ourselves as we forge our way forward and demand our equal treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, the Honorable Congresswoman Stacey E. Plaskett, putting forth her recommendations for the people. So we got to rise up and do those things, people. At this time, I bring forward the Caribbean Chorale, and they're going to present the Prayer for the Virgin Islands, one of my favorite hymns composed by our own Wilbur Bill LaMotta. The Caribbean Chorale, directed by Sergeant Monet Davis. She's really awesome today, isn't she? We've seen her up here how many times? Yeah. And this group, they're known as the vocal ambassadors of the Virgin Islands. I remember Senator Sean Michael Malone at the time put it forth. I had just stepped down from directing the chorale, and it was put forth, and they became the vocal ambassadors of the Virgin Islands. During that time, we had done so many Virgin Islands and Caribbean pieces we had pulled out of files that were hidden for many years. So let's welcome our Caribbean Chorale, and they will present this afternoon to you the prayer for the Virgin Islands. Dear God, who has blessed us with surroundings sublime. Just a beautifully written hymn, touching words composed by our own Bill LaMotta. Thank you, the Caribbean Chorale, with the prayer for the Virgin Islands under the direction of Monet Davis. Thank you so much. And now I call forward the Honorable Anne Dorte Rigelsen, Ambassador, Consul General of Denmark in New York. And we had you last year as well. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please forgive me at this late hour not to fully respect your very elaborate sense of protocol. A civil servant should be brief, because what is a civil servant? A mere placeholder. Hopefully, a hard-working placeholder, but a placeholder. And who or whom am I holding the place for? I'm holding the place for a man who doesn't represent anything, but who is. I'm holding the place for the Danish Prime Minister, who is the head of government, who is accompanied by his wife, Solrud Rasmussen, and who is going to give the next speech. Lars Løkke Rasmussen, Danish Prime Minister, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Ambassador, and good afternoon to everybody. And especially good afternoon to you, Your Excellency, Governor Mapp, and Your Excellency, Secretary Sinki, and all of you friends here in this beautiful island. It is indeed an honor for me to be here today, and it's a great pleasure to be back at your beautiful island. I will never forget when I was here for the first time. It is more than 10 years ago, and it was together with my old father, who had a lifelong dream to visit the islands. And I will never forget the view from my plane seat when we approached Cyril E. King Airport. And he brought the experience for wonderful days here with him in his heart until he passed away. So it's nice to be back. And my wife and I have been greeted by sincere hospitality from the moment we arrived. And for this, we are both very grateful. We are very pleased to be here. And I want to deliver to you the same message as I did earlier today, some hours ago, early this morning in St. Croix, because it is essential for me to say what I'm about to say. On this exact day, 100 years ago, the Stars and Stripes of America replaced the Danish Dannebrog as the official flag of St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John. It's 100 years ago and 2 hours. So it's a long time ago. But the preceding years under the Danish flag are not forgotten, neither in Denmark nor at the Virgin Islands. Still today, city names such as Charlotte, Amalie, and Frydendal remind us of our common past. And so do the many houses and buildings that still bear the marks of Danish presence. I'm pleased that thousands of my fellow countrymen visit your beautiful island every year, and this year in particular, many of them here today. And they are here today because they feel a special bond to you and your home. Bond of friendship, bond of destiny, and so do I, as I stand here on this historic day. A touch of common destiny that time cannot erase. But although we share a common past, we have not always shared the same story about that past. When I was a child, almost half a century ago, the popular Danish story about the West Indies was a romantic one. Exotic islands, peaceful coexistence. I even remember the tales of the Danish king, who was the first in the world to ban slave trade. A true pioneer of humanity, we were told. A hero. But most of you were told and lived a different story. The true story. A story of how slavery continued after the ban. How too often conditions only improved on paper. And of how many of your ancestors continue to suffer. The true heroes were the men and women who stood up to the injustice. Over the years, our history has been explored and questioned, and today we can study the millions of historic documents and pictures from the Virgin Islands. They are now accessible online thanks to the Danish National Archives. Many of them are so precious they have been proclaimed as World Heritage by UNESCO. And sure, it is important to get the facts right. It is important. But I suggest that we also look somewhere else, in our hearts and in our minds. I suggest we ask ourselves, is there any justification for suppression? Any argument for treating people brutally? And we all know the answer by heart. The answer is no. There is no justification whatsoever for the exploitation of men, women and children that took place in these very islands under Danish flag. There's no justification for slavery. It is unforgivable. Unforgivable. So it's a dark and disgraceful part of Danish history. So when I search my heart and my mind, there's no doubt. The true heroes of the past are the men and women of the Virgin Islands who defied suppression. They were not giving their freedom. They took it back, led by brave souls. Brave souls who risked their own lives to set their fellow countrymen free. Men like General Budo, who led the rebellion of 1848, riding on a white horse, fighting for emancipation, imprisoned, deported, but at the end successful, fulfilling his mission. Fierce women like Queen Mary, Queen Agnes, and Queen Matilda, who rebelled against the appalling living conditions, healthcare, education and wages, imprisoned in Denmark, right next to the Danish Parliament. Patriots like David Hamilton Jackson, a teacher and a true idealist who dedicated his life to improve the conditions for the people of the Virgin Islands by peaceful but passionate means. The story goes that when David Hamilton Jackson once criticized the Danish governor in a very harsh tone, the governor replied by calling Jackson a dreamer. A dreamer. And this was probably meant as an insult. But isn't it rather a badge of honor? Because only when we dare to dream, when we dare to dream of a brighter future, will the beacons of freedom be at sight. This was the case for Mr. Hamilton Jackson, and that is the case for us all. So, dear friends, we must acknowledge what happened, that what happened in the past has affected where the islands are today. It has affected where the islands are today. We cannot undo the past. What we can do is to improve the future. Only by freeing ourselves from the nightmares of the past can we make our dreams of the future come true. And this is the lesson learned from the true heroes of the past. Despite overwhelming obstacles, their ideals of liberty, equality, and dignity prevailed. Today, the people of Denmark and the people of the Virgin Islands share common historic bonds. And today, finally, we share the same view of history. And today, we share the same heroes. And hopefully, we share a bright future together. Tomorrow, I will make a visit to the University of the Virgin Islands, where I will launch a 5-year scholarship program. It is my hope. Thank you. It is my hope that this new program will pave the way for further development in both our countries and bring new hope and new opportunities to young people in the Virgin Islands. The youth of our countries are the future. They must keep their dreams alive. They must take destiny into their own hands, just as the Virgin Island heroes of the past did. And this time around, ladies and gentlemen, we will not hold them back. We will push them forward. I wish you all a meaningful and memorable Transfer Day. Thank you very much.
Wow, people of the Virgin Islands, did you hear it? There's no justification for suppression. Unforgivable, the dark and disgraceful part of the history. And he is working towards improvement for the future. I thank you. And I'm excited about the University of the Virgin Islands. I teach there, and I see another professor in our audience who also teaches there, and there may be many. But we saw several of our students in the bands today. I coordinate the music programs at the university this year, and it was awesome having these students here today. And there's even some more coming up with Professor Dion Parsons' Youth Ensemble, so this is really great. At this time, I'd like to call for, forward Congresswoman Amata Coleman Radewagan from American Samoa, representing the Speaker of the House, Congressman Paul Ryan.
Thank you very much, Mistress of Ceremonies. Wow, it's been an awesome celebration. I'm privileged to bring a message from the House Speaker, Paul Ryan, along with his best personal wishes to you, the people of the Virgin Islands, and I'll read it. Dear friends, I want to congratulate the U.S. Virgin Islands as we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the day that the U.S. Virgin Islands became an unincorporated United States territory. For the last century, the United States has treasured the Virgin Islands for their unique culture and many contributions to American life. From an act of diplomacy at the turn of the 20th century to the thriving tourism industry that the USVI boasts today, the last century has given us plenty to celebrate, and I look forward to the century ahead. Congress created the Virgin Islands of the United States Centennial Commission to join in commemorating this important anniversary. I would like to add my personal congratulations to my friend and colleague, the Honorable Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, And thanks to everyone who made today's celebration of Transfer Day possible. God bless the Virgin Islands, and God bless America. Sincerely, Paul D. Ryan, Speaker, United States House of Representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Amata Coleman Radewakan from American Samoa, representing Speaker of the House, Congressman Paul Ryan. Appreciate it. At this time, I see our youth ensemble has gathered, and so we're going to have a musical selection from the youth ensemble. Virgin Islands Youth Ensemble. They've been directed by Dion Parsons, and very grateful for their music today. Aren't they good? Yeah. And they played at the Charter Day concert for the university too, so quite wonderful. Thank you, thank you. At this time, I want to call forward the Honorable Nicoleo Pula, Acting Assistant Secretary for Insular Areas with the U.S. Department of the Interior, to introduce our Secretary of the Interior.
Moi. Too low, too low, too low. Virgin Islanders, all people of the Caribbean, people of Denmark, the answer to that victory call is Muo. So I'm going to lead one more time, and I want you all to shout at the loudest victory call of Muo. And if you don't do good, I'm going to continue until 10 o'clock. Moi, moi. No good, no good. Shaky pizza. Let's try one more time. Together, but this time, you watch me. When I go like this, everybody say, Muo. All right. Here we go. Moi, moi. Governor, I think the people are ready. The next speaker hails from Big Sky State of Montana. He attended the University of Oregon, where he played football and was All Pacific Conference. After graduation, he joined the U.S. Navy and was a Navy SEAL for 23 years. And then he retired in 2008. After which, he ran and won, became a senator for the state of Montana. Later, he ran and became a U.S. member of Congress at the House of Representatives. Before I introduce the Secretary of the Interior, his work covers millions of acres of lands in the United States and waters all over the land, and 567 Native Americans and Alaskan Natives, including the U.S. territories. So, my dear fellow Virgin Islanders, I hail from American Samoa, the sister U.S. territory south of the equator. Let's welcome the next speaker, but I want you to help me do it. When I say mili, I want everybody to rub your hands, okay? Our last exercise. And when I say pati, that means clap. Just one, don't do the many claps. When I say luapati, that means 2 claps. And when I say pati and po, 2 claps, and you cup your hands and do a po. All right, let's see if everybody do it right. Okay, everybody, put everything down on the chair. And when I say mili, everybody rub your hands. Okay, mili. Pat. Little shaky, but not bad. Luapati. Luapati and po. Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Sinke.
Well, let me be the first to say good evening. Mr. Prime Minister, Ambassador, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Senators, and my 2 favorite Congresswomen, I am deeply honored to be with you today. and looking at the Centennial. And thank you for your remarks. It is the past, but also the future. And just like the past, what has made the Virgin Islands so great is not just the water and the beaches, but it's the people. That is what has made the Virgin Islands so great today. So with that, the President has asked me to convey his greetings and read his statement. My warmest wishes as our nation celebrates the 100th anniversary of the transfer of the Virgin Islands from Denmark to the United States. The convention between the United States and Denmark, effective on March 31st, 1917, for the cession of the Danish West Indies, has contributed to the character, the strength, and the vibrancy of the United States of America. Today, we honor the proud history of the U.S. Virgin Islands and its remarkable legacy as part of our great nation. Virgin Islanders have found great success as members of the American family, distinguishing themselves in the arts, literature, and sports, and achieving great acclaim in the fields of education, medicine, science, engineering, agriculture, politics, and law. The Virgin Islands patriots have served honorably in all branches of the United States military and continue to serve and sacrifice for our liberty and our freedoms. And we express the gratitude to our proud citizens of the U.S. Virgin Islands. We pause to pay tribute to those Virgin Island warriors who have given the last measures of devotion to their country and for our freedom and children. The United States is delighted to share this celebration with the great Danish people, our steadfast ally and partner in nearly every international sphere. We appreciate the spirit of Denmark, to which our nation's soul is linked to the beautiful Virgin Islands, and so much more. We look forward to strengthening our true, historic, and lasting friendship, and as we forge ahead to foster the great security and prosperity of our nations. Again, we thank God for the Virgin Islands, for its wonderful people, and for making the Virgin Islands a part and a great part of the United States. May God bless the people of the Virgin Islands and those who defend her. Signed, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
Thank you so much. The Honorable Ryan Zinke, United States Secretary of the Interior, reading President Trump's letter to the Virgin Islanders. And at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call forward the Honorable Kenneth E. Mapp, Governor of the Virgin Islands of the United States. Please welcome our Governor by standing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Please be seated. Please be seated. Thank you. Lieutenant Governor Potter, our Honorable Ryan Zinke, the Secretary of Interior, our Honorable Prime Minister from Denmark, Lars Rasmussen and Mrs. Rasmussen, our Senate President, Myron Jackson, and members of the 32nd Legislature, the Honorable Stacey Plaskett, Delegate to Congress, Dr. Orlando Smith, Premier of the British Virgin Islands, and the contingent from the British Virgin Islands. I believe we also have Ms. Dolores Christopher. And I saw my good friend, Alvera Maduro Keynes. Good afternoon. Ambassador Regalson, members of my cabinet, Sitting over in the side there, good evening. Congresswoman Rita Wagan, I'm trying to get your name pronounced right, so please forgive me, but welcome from American Samoa. Thank you for being here. My good friend, former Governor Charles Turnbull, Mr. Soren Black, the President of the University of the Virgin Islands, Dr. David Hall, members of the Virgin Islands Centennial Commission, our delegates, our good friends, I should say, our guests from Denmark, our visitors from around the world and from the U.S., my fellow Virgin Islanders, good evening. First, let me start by thanking everyone who had anything to do in putting together the 100th celebration and observance of the transfer of the Danish West Indies to the United States of America. The members of the Commission and all others who have helped has done a credible and stupendous job, and I want to personally thank you on behalf of the people of the Virgin Islands. Thank you. Mr. Senator Jackson and the President of the 32nd Legislature, let me commend you for a wonderful job on putting this together as well, and a wonderful job in setting up the grounds here at the Capitol building. It is really professional. When I go into entertainment, I'm going to have to get a contract for you to help set up the stage for me. This is really, really beautiful. I'm going to have to do that. Yes. Congratulations, Mr. President. You did an excellent job. I want to thank all of the children and the students from the various schools for the performances that they did, for their participation in the parade. It certainly was wonderful, and we were very happy to have you here to be a part of history and to learn a part of your history. The many, many visitors we have here from Denmark that I have met in the last 2 weeks, I think speaks volumes of the relationship between the people of Denmark and the Virgin Islands. And this has been happening for many, many, many years, and I want to acknowledge you and to thank you for being here. I want to, as a Virgin Islander, I want to thank the Prime Minister for those candid remarks of acknowledgement of the reality of the history through the eyes of the Africans living in the Danish West Indies. And I want to double down on your observation that we are posed to build a stronger relationship as two people working together, walking into the future. I really want to thank you for your acknowledgement. Investing in the children of the Virgin Islands and the future of the Virgin Islands is a powerful tool because we teach our children that their path to real freedom, their path to achieve their dreams is vested in acquiring a good education. And any investment in education of our children, we accept that as a beautiful gift and a valued gift, and we thank you for those contributions. I am honored to be the Governor of the Virgin Islands at a time when we recognize and celebrate the 100th anniversary of the transfer from the Danish West Indies to the U.S. Virgin Islands. My grandmother, who was born on this island here in St. Thomas, was born on March 3rd, 1896, and was in her early life as a young lady, married, I believe, with one of her oldest daughter at the time this transfer took place here on these grounds. And my grandmother spoke of the experiences of her father, and she spoke of her experiences as a young woman raising a family in the Virgin Islands under the U.S. flag. Our opportunities, our growth as a people, our privileges under the U.S. flag in the last 100 years has been stellar. We've had much talk about our freedoms, our partnership, the ability of Virgin Islands to travel abroad and do much. But we have other distinctions that we can make under the U.S. flag. In our time, the Virgin Islands and the people of the Virgin Islands have witnessed devastated hurricanes and bad weather, as many of the other independent islands of the Caribbean have experienced. But we are one of two people in the Caribbean that have had the expectation and know that as citizens of the great nation of the United States, that there are going to be a lot of C-5s landing and a lot of supplies and FEMA's response and the assistance and reconstruction of the lives of the American citizens in this territory. We have experienced that. We have experienced in our lives as American citizens, as Delegate Plaskett noticed, the distinction in policy as it relates to where we live in the territories as American citizens versus living on the U.S. mainland. These observations are only made to note that in the next 100 years, there is much work to do. These observations are made so that the people of the Virgin Islands can recognize that we have to take responsibility and determine the act of self-determination and how we wish to define our relationship with this great nation, the United States of America. And of course, we are free to do it, and we know how to do it. We are not a people that are very short on expressing our opinions, and we know that the challenge is before us to move ahead. We are proud of the distinction that the Virgin Islands, as a jurisdiction under the U.S. flag, have the highest number of casualties in American conflict per capita of any other jurisdiction under the U.S. flag. And certainly our cemeteries and the veterans sections reflect that. I was pointing out as an observation to the Secretary of Interior, as we did both of the parades in St. Croix and St. Thomas, the number of our young people that are joined and participate in the junior ROTC. And currently that number is a little bit over 1,200 out of 4 high schools. And we know as a matter of record that as these young folks graduate from high school, over 70% of them enter into military service. So the affection and the dedication and the love of the people of the Virgin Islands as American citizens of the United States of America really need no proof. We speak for the actions that we take. And our desire to be full participating members of this nation as citizens with our full rights and privileges are strong. And so I challenge the people of the Virgin Islands as we begin the next 100 years, let's take up the mantle and let's begin to have a serious conversation about self-determination and political maturity. I want to thank all of you for participating and coming out to the Centennial observations and celebrations and bringing your young people and your children and grandchildren to witness this historic event. I want to wish you all well. I want to wish you God's richest blessings, and I ask the good Lord to bless the U.S. Virgin Islands and to bless the United States of America. Thank you all, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Governor Mapp. You heard it. The next 100 years, there is much work to do, and the responsibility and self-determination. Let us fulfill the governor's mandate. At this time, I see that Sound Tapestry Singers is coming forward for their musical selection. And they are going to be singing a piece written by Wilbur Bill LaMotta, Spirit of the Virgin Islands, composed by Bill LaMotta. However, it's arranged by Dr. Lawrence Benjamin. And I see that Jan Ballard will be accompanying them. So do enjoy. And guess what? The piece is really Come Back to the Virgin Islands, Bill LaMotta's song. So if you know the words and you know it, on the last verse, which would be the third verse, Dr. Benjamin is not going to mind if we sing along. Will you? Thank you. So it's our time to sing. Come back to the Virgin Islands, people. In the breeze says, come back to the Virgin Isles, please, honey bun, please. Far and wide, victory, dawning of a freedom new, and on we march to meet our destiny, united strong. Thank you. The Caribbean Chorale under the direction of the Sound Tapestry Singers under the direction of Dr. Lawrence Benjamin and accompanied by Jan Ballard. Thank you so much. And now I want to say thank you to everyone who has attended today's commemoration here on the grounds of our legislature. I particularly say thank you to Senator Myron Jackson. He calls on me every year to do this, and this was bigger than I ever expected. But thank you, Governor. But it's wonderful that we've had so many people with us this year. And we are also grateful for the military and civilian parade that we had prior to the beginnings of this, from the Cancrine Junior High School to the legislative grounds. We're grateful as well for the musical prelude and all of the schools that participated, EBO, Antilles, Muller, and Gladys Abraham. And we're also grateful to everyone who has participated in today's program, starting with Reverend Neville, and we're going to end with Pastor Curtin Roberts in a little bit. Those who sang our anthems, Lorna Freeman and Gilchrist Sproul, the remarks from Senator Jackson, from the Honorable Chief Justice Reese Hodge, all of the National Guard members and the cadets of the Denmark training ship, our Caribbean Dance Company and combined ensemble directed by Monty Thompson, all of the Bambula dancers and drummers and Caribbean ritual dancers, our Honorable Charles Wesley Turnbull with the program that's in your booklet. Go back and review it. And as well, I want to bring, let you know that on page 30 in the booklet, you can go online and look up your ancestors as well. When I was heading to the St. John program, I went in, and you know I grew up in Watergut and St. Croix, but I wanted to log in and see my grandfather's name, so I put in Elias Hassel, and the website brought up Elias Haddock Hassel. I didn't know that was his middle name, but and the information is there for many of our ancestors online, page 30 and 31. I got to thank the booklet committee and particularly Colette Monroe. I don't know where she is. She's a Centennial member, but she stood her grounds that Saturday morning and stayed with the printing press and made sure that we got this copy. So thank you to everybody, to Pamela Richard Samuel, our chairperson of the Centennial Commission, and the work that she did in putting forth the programs that you see here today. We're grateful for the funding that came to us from the Department of Interior, and of course our Honorable Lieutenant Governor, the Honorable Premier of the British Virgin Islands, all those who have participated from Denmark, His Excellency Lars Rasmussen and his wife, the Honorable Nicola Pula from American Samoa, and the Honorable Ryan Zinke. Thank you all so much for participating with us today. There is a reception following, and we hope that you're going to stay here on the grounds. We also have some musical ensembles that are coming forward with the community program, BCB, St. Thomas Heritage Dancers, Mungo Niles Cultural Dancers, the Dominican Cultural Dancers, the Masalin Bambula Dance Company, and Milo's Kings. So do stay for our after celebration and party here this evening. Thank you all so very much. I hope I've guided you through the program. Enjoy.
Please stand if you can for the benediction. O sovereign God of all the nations of this world, as we bring this public ceremony to a close, marking the centennial transfer of our territory from Denmark to the United States of America, we can truly and sincerely say, to God be the glory, great things he has done. We therefore invoke your blessings upon our beloved Virgin Islands of the United States of America, and ask that as we go forth in the next century, we will go forth united with pride and hope. We will indeed be proud of our heritage, and we will have the hope that yet better years are ahead of us. We declare your blessings upon this generation and all generations to come, praying that this will continue to be a godly, righteous, prosperous, and peaceful territory. And so the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit rest, remain, and abide with us all this evening, this day, and forevermore. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask the dignitaries to stay? The Centennial Commission wants to take a picture with you. They're coming forward. Centennial Commission members, we are asking for you to come and take a picture with the members who have come from afar. Thank you. Refreshments are to the south.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters.